What is going on, Sales Dev Squad? Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Sales Dev Squad podcast. It's your host, Mateo Elvira, here with a good friend of mine and just an inspiring person, someone who I've met not too long ago. We connected probably about a month ago, and such a genuine guy, a true leader in my perspective, and he's been posting a ton of great content on LinkedIn. So if you guys aren't following him now or have not seen any of the content that he's posting, I highly recommend it. But Blake, thanks so much for hopping on the podcast today, man. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Love it. Thank you so much. I want to tell your audience, it's just sometimes you meet with someone and you feel like you get 3 years worth of conversations in 1 hour. And that's how I feel with you, Mateo. I just think we're kindred spirits, and we want to make sure that we're helping people be their best selves. So I'm just ready to get into this, man.
Absolutely, man. So for our viewers here, just a quick background on Blake. He's from Chicago, Illinois. Had quite a bit of experience doing a lot of different things. A cool thing about Blake is he actually attended a sales boot camp based out of the Chicago area called Victory Lap. Not only did he graduate from there, exceeded expectations, but he landed his first SDR role for a company called Paro, was promoted very quickly to an SDR team lead, and now he is actually back over at Victory Lap, helping SDRs sort of find their passion, find a way to sell themselves. So don't really see that too often. But Blake, I guess, do you mind just sharing a bit more about like how you came across Victory Lap and your experience there, and I guess why you decided to come back?
Yeah, man, for sure. I shared the story once on my LinkedIn. So before I can talk about Victory Lap, I have to talk about what came before that. And I was in a weird spot in my career, a very liminal space. I had left grad school. I had ran for state senate. Basically like went to the height of my political career. And then after that 2016 election, just kind of found myself looking for the next thing. And I'll never forget my mom in this, random conversation in the garage. She was like, Blake, you're meant for more. Like there's nothing in front of you except air and opportunity. And at the time I was sleeping on a futon in their house. So that might have been her not so subtle way about like, go, go and be Blake.
Explore the
And
world.
I took that and I was like mad at her because I didn't know exactly what she meant, but it caused me to like go and look for something. And it's funny because that we'll come back to that anger piece because I think it's something that has been cyclical in my journey. And I started looking online at like sales roles because I was in an admissions counselor position, which is sales. You're selling a college.
Hmm.
And I was like, I want to get into this. And I came across Victory Lab, and they were like, we're going to train you. We're going to help you get this job. And I'm like, this is too good to be true. How much do I owe you guys? Where is the
What's the catch?
and yeah, and there was no catch. They were just great people. I'll never forget talking to Lindsay Weichert the first time and just, her basically like saying, yeah, Blake, all that you've been doing is preparing you for sales. We'd love to have you. And I went through that boot camp. They imbued me with so much confidence to go into this industry feeling like I belonged. Like I don't think I would have ever gotten it. It would have taken me a long time. And instead I got it in a week. And then, of course, they connected me with my first employer in sales, and they supported me. I always tried to give back as an alumni. And when it came time to go into, my next role, I was like, I don't think there's anything I'm more passionate about than Victory Lab. In my mind, it's like it's not selling a company; it's selling like an idea, selling an
Hmm.
opportunity. And so it was just a no-brainer to go back. But that's how I came across it, how I went through it, and my perspective on Victory Lab.
Dude, that's awesome. I guess like I'd imagine your role is a bit shifted now, right? From going to booking meetings to now, I'd imagine. I hope that you're, training the soon to be SDRs, man. Can you walk us through like I guess like what do you love most about, now shifting gears from being an IC to now, building out like a basically a sales training program that will hopefully, provide opportunities for a ton of people. I know you guys are based out of Chicago, but I just would love to hear more about that, man.
Yeah, a great question, Mateo, and I think you framed it really well. So I was hired pre-COVID, back, when we could walk to the office, back when I could play basketball with my broken wrist. And I basically started, and then COVID hit, and I was selling a different version of Victory Lap than I'd ever known. And we made some natural business pivots, just the ones you make when you're a startup of 10 people. But we also made some COVID pivots. And so my role, as it does in an early stage startup, changes often. And I like that. I like it because you get new skill sets. I like it because it gives you exposure to different aspects of a company. But to your point, went from how do I convince managers and VPs that you need to come to Victory Lap to get your sales talent, to, as you stated, now it's like, how do we bring in great students for our boot camp? How do we maximize that experience for them? Because that's going to be the thing that sets us apart from other boot camps. There's other boot camps out there, and I love them. I so appreciate the work that they do because it changed my life. I say the more the merrier. But that said, I'm biased. I want Victory Lap to stand out. I want it to be the best. And I think a big part of that is going to be owning that student experience from day one to day one of the job. And truthfully, that whole year, if I can see our retention rate for a year be in the 90th percentile or the 100%, that's the number I want to get to. So yeah, I'm in a place where I'm going to be, bringing folks through the door. I'm going to be working with them kind of in a coaching mentorship role, working with our CEO with curriculum, and just basically making sure that these folks come in, they get a clear sense of their identity as sellers. They get a clear sense of their purpose and what they want in their next organization, and they thrive. We want to create the next generation of sales leaders. We don't want to just place people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I guess my next question here for you, Blake, is like the fact that you've been through the program, right? There's a lot of tech boot camps out there that will probably just teach you like tactical stuff. Like from your perspective, now that you've graduated and you're selling, you're connecting, like, do you feel like the program should change a bit, or as far as like, what do you want to teach your students? Are you more focused on developing, the people? Is it more about just getting the information to the right people? Like, how do you feel is like the best way to develop those Victory Lap students, given the fact that, you are tried and tested, you're a reason that it works. But like, now that you are sort of leading that, like, what do you want to bring to the table that's different given your perspective?
So a little background, we just completed our 50th cohort. We've been around for about 3.5, almost 4 years now. I was in cohort 22. And so as you can imagine, things have changed drastically, even from when I was in it. And they were very different, 2 months before I went through it. And the reality is it's supposed to improve. We're in a place where we are still leveling up. We don't have anything perfected. And we're pursuing that perfection, right? So there's that side of it. We're growing, we're changing, the boot camp's evolving. But in terms of what I want to present or what I personally want to help these students get, I'm a big believer that context informs content. And so you can give someone sales tips. You can tell someone how to write a better cold email. Mm-hmm. You can tell someone how to make a better cold call, how to video prospect. And those things are very important. They're the fundamentals of our craft. But if you don't prepare people with the identity of a seller, they're going to feel nervous. They're going to feel comfortable. They're going to feel like they're bugging people. When one of the things that stuck with me, really resonated with me with my experience with Victory Lap, selling is not this sleazy profession that I need to be ashamed of. Selling is very important. I am a problem solver, a solution presenter. And sometimes my customer just doesn't know they have a problem yet. When you go into sales with that mindset, you're happy to make the cold call because I got something for you. You're happy to send the email because I got something for you. So I want to help them with that identity side of it. And then the purpose, like I want them to know, why are you selling this? Not to get a commission check. What is the outcome for your customer? The reason why I'm so passionate about Victory Lap, why I would do whatever job they ask me to do, why I would work for it for free if I needed to, is because of the outcome on the customer. I've seen what it looks like in my own life to go from sleeping on a futon to living downtown Chicago in a very short period of time. And on the flip side, I've seen what it looks like when companies get SDRs that come through the door knowing who they are as a seller, how to be a professional, and why they're there.
Mm-hmm.
So the outcome, and that's the context I want to provide these students with is, why are you here? Why do you want to succeed? What does that look like for you? And you answer those sorts of questions. And I just think people, they're going to be great sales professionals. They can handle and weather a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm. Dude, I think you're the perfect man for the job for that, man. It's just, I think you have such a core mindset and such a strong mindset, and that's awesome to hear, man. I want to take a couple steps back here. I did get a chance to watch your commencement speech on YouTube before this podcast, man. I got to say, you are a fantastic public speaker, man. I don't know if you were just born that way or if you just like naturally sound like a presidential candidate. But dude, it's just I noticed that you had a really awesome quote. You said, no one achieves greatness on your own, and you also had like sort of 3 tips that you provided to like your graduating class, and it was embrace, endure, and enjoy. I was just hoping if you could kind of unpack that further, and I guess what that means to you.
Yeah, man. First of all, thank you for all those kind words. My mom says that I kind of came out the womb talking. She's like, most babies, they cry, they sleep. You were like moving your mouth and trying to figure out how to talk. And
Put it on a
so
suit.
I've been working on my craft for a while. And I gave my first speech at 5. It was in church. It was about a spiritual report card, because what else do you know when you're 5? But yeah, man, I love being able to, give an audience something that inspires, that empowers, that they can think about. As far as that speech though, that was such a powerful moment for me. That embrace, endure, enjoy was a framework. I was trying to keep it simple for the audience of 7,000-8,000 people, graduates and their families. But at the same time, I wanted it to be something that they could hold on to. And so we all go through difficult moments. That's just a promise in life. But how you respond to them is going to be what makes the difference. And in 2015, my mindset was embrace that reality, right? Get real with yourself. See it for what it is. Endure it. Go through it. Get better. Understand that as you are, challenged, you are shaped the same way a stone is smoothed by the river, like you have to go through that difficult crucible to become your best self. And then lastly, enjoy. Right? There's a scripture where it talks about Christ who for the joy set before him, right? We are motivated by that joy. That when we set those things in front of us, we can continue to press on and move through the difficult times because we know there's a light at the other end of the tunnel. Now, that was 2015. A couple of years ago, I went through a difficult time in my sales career, and I was doing well. I had a kind of a quick start. Some might say beginner's luck. I think that Victory Lab really made sure that I was going to be successful in that first 90 days. And then I wasn't doing so well. I kind of moped, and I was frustrated, and I saw a lot of my peers being frustrated. And it dawned on me, there was a lot of entitlement. There was a lot of frustration about what they didn't have. I should be getting promoted. I should be getting better resources. I should be getting X, Y, and Z. And what I realized was that, to go back to that, embrace, endure, enjoy model, the gratitude that I had for that situation, when it exceeded my expectations or my entitlements, I really thrived. I'm grateful to have this job. I'm grateful to be in the city. The resources they gave me are better than the ones I had. Mm-hmm. And when my entitlements creeped up above my gratitude, that's where my frustration lied. And that's where the frustrations of so many of my peers were at. And so I call it the gratitude gap, just, to be simple, but it's basically like making sure that you are looking for these things to be grateful for. In 2015, it was the joy set before me. And in 2020, it's the gratitude gap. But basically, how am I going to equip myself mentally to endure this difficult time and to get better from it? So that's the speech. That's what it's evolved into. But I just trying to find things to be grateful for, man.
Dude, that's such a great framework, and I'm definitely going to get that tattooed on my chest very soon. But nah, dude, I really enjoyed that speech, and I'm curious to get your thoughts. I know that you mentioned that you've been doing public speaking since you were 5, apparently. Like, what do you feel like public speaking is hard. I'm sure you and I can both attest, and it doesn't come easy. It doesn't come quick. But like, what has public speaking done for your sales game? Like, has it changed the way that you think about selling, or do you feel like it has made you a better seller as a result of it? And if so, like, how so?
Absolutely. Yes, there's transferability in those skills, particularly because of the way that I was taught to speak publicly. Be it my mom working with me, who, went and competed at state and speech team. She competed with
Wow.
Vince Vaughn
No
and when she
way.
was in high school, or when I was on speech team in high school and college. And the concept was speak as if you're speaking to one person, right? So I can be speaking to one person, 100 people, or 8,000 like I was in that commencement address, but I still want them to feel that connection. I want to be conversational. Now, in a public speech, it's very one-sided, and it's funny because a lot of people think selling is talking. Selling is actually listening. So the way that public speaking helps me as a sales rep actually is understanding that I'm going to be nervous. I get nervous when I speak still. And Robin Williams had a quote. He was basically like, the day I stop getting nervous when I perform is the day I'm done, because that means I don't care anymore.
Mhm.
And I believe that. I'm the same way, man. Like, I get nervous. I care. I want people to enjoy it or take something from it. But I understand how to like put that aside, because that is very selfish thinking. I'm thinking about myself, what could go wrong, what I might say, how to put that aside. What am I doing for the audience? What am I doing to help them? How are they going to improve? And when I put my focus on the other, be it in a public speaking setting, or putting my focus on the customer, it helps me just move with a lot more clarity, a lot more compassion, and it makes for a better conversation.
Mhm. 100%, man. Such great advice there, man. I noticed that you also had this like motto in your speech as well, like, like your past doesn't really define the present or the future for that matter, and obviously COVID has put a damper in a lot of people's timelines. A lot of businesses have been impacted. Like, how has this sort of saying, this motto, sort of been helpful for you during these tough times, man?
Oh, well, I mean, I can't front. Like, it's been difficult. It's been very up and down. Um, I love my fiance, and we have really done our best to make the most of this situation. But we share a small space. We're both working from home, and we have our ups and downs. And it's like, how do you find some sort of, normal in a very unnormal time, an inconvenient time? I just think it's like what you keep before you. What is your focus on? And so I'm fortunate in that with Victory Lab, I was able to just think about like, my God, there's so many people that have lost work who did not deserve it, who did nothing to deserve it. Very talented, capable people. What small thing can I do today to help them get back to it and better? Same thing with myself. It's like, funny story. So in December, I was playing basketball like I used to do all the time, 4 or 5 times a week. And I fell and hurt my wrist, or so I thought. Got an MRI, found out I tore a ligament in my wrist. And you should have seen me in January, man. I was just distraught. Like, when I found out, like 3 to 6 months of not playing ball.
Yeah.
And so I ended up not getting the surgery until May. But for like January, February, I was prepared to just be miserable for 4 or 5 months. Then COVID hit, and now I had the double whammy. No basketball because I literally can't, and no basketball because no one can. And I was like, what am I going to do to stay sane? And I really worried about that. And I remember saying like, well, I need to find something to replace that time, because that's a big chunk of my week.
Yeah.
And thank God I turned to LinkedIn, because I have now put my career on a different trajectory. I've expanded my network. I've met fantastic people like yourself, whom I can call a friend. And like, that wouldn't have happened probably had I not hurt this wrist, had COVID not happened, had I not joined Victory Lab. It was like a perfect storm. And so all that to say, to get back to your original question, like, what are you focused on? You can focus on COVID. You can focus on what you lack. or you can focus on getting better. You can focus on kind of caring for yourself in that way, and just making the most of this time. And time's still ticking. COVID didn't stop time, just made it a little bit more interesting.
Hmm. Hmm. Such a great way to look at it, man. I love it. I think, for these reasons and more, I definitely look up to you as a leader, not only in the sales world, but even in a grander scale, man.
Same, man,
Um,
for
I,
you.
thanks, dude. I want to get your thoughts, like in today's world, I feel like leadership is more important than ever. Like, how do you define leadership, or what does leadership mean to you?
Yeah. So I actually had a podcast a few years back. I was working with this organization. We had like 5 different shows. And on that show, I talked about leadership from 3 levels. Because I think that a lot of people think leadership and they think leading nations and, moving mountains. And that's part of it. But before you can get to that, it's first character. How are you leading yourself? How do you think, behave, believe, act? Right? And then from the character level, you go outward and you start looking at the community. How are you leading those people around you, the ones you can touch and see and actually have impact on because they're in your immediate sphere of influence? And then you get to the level of leadership that a lot of people want to start at, that culture level, where you start having influence on people that you might not be able to see and touch and feel, but you're creating a lasting impact, a legacy, that large scale leadership. And so for me, it's leadership is, I look at it from those 3 levels, first and foremost, but it's also, it goes back to sales. It goes back to, everything we've talked about, like listening. Who are you leading? What do they need? Right? When I do workshops, I go through this framework with people. It's a series of questions to help them kind of develop purpose. And I think that these questions, they very well correlate to leadership. It's, who are you? What do you do? And that's the identity piece. Who do you do it for? What do they need is a key question. And lastly, how do they change as a result of what you've done for them? Those are the purpose piece, right? But if you want to lead people, you have to stop worrying about yourself and stop worrying about how you're going to be perceived and who are you helping, what do they need, and how are they going to change as a result.
Mhm. That's amazing, man. That's going to be the LinkedIn trailer right there. That's awesome, man. I know we're coming up short here, a couple minutes. I always like to finish off the podcast. For anyone that's might be in your position, whether in the Chicago area or in the U.S. or even outside the U.S., that's looking for their next opportunity, whether in sales or not, and they're just inspired by this video here to message you further or inquire some more info about Victory Lap. Like, what advice do you have for them?
I want them to know that sales is uniquely human. I think a lot of people try and make sales out to be this like magic, this alchemy, this thing that you can only do if you have these certain skills. And reality is, if you can listen, if you can ask great questions, if you can identify problems and try and present solutions, you're going to be an excellent sales rep. And we do those things in our everyday lives. We have great conversations with people all the time, right? But then we get into these settings where it's like, sell this. No, just listen,
Mhm.
just help. And so I want to kind of break down the stigma of what sales is. Reach out. Whether you want a career in sales or whether you just want to use these sales skills in practical ways in your life, interviews, the first dates, everything in between, right? Sales has practical implications. Whether you work with a Victory Lap or anything else, I just want to see you thrive. I think Victory Lap's the best place to go, but there's other great places as well. Blake at victorylab.io. You can hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to answer questions, set aside 15, 30 minutes to chat. But yeah, man, my heart is for this work, this industry, and it changes lives. Simple as that.
Dude, you took the next question right out of my mouth. Where can they find you? Blake, it's been an honor having you on the podcast today, man. I hope we can have you hop on again in the future. And furthermore, man, you're gonna do a lot of exciting things. Hopefully, we can bring you to Hollywood sometime and make you famous. Get you on HBO or something. But dude, thank you so much. Always a pleasure just chatting with you, and you're one of the most genuine people I've met in a while. And hope we can continue to stay in touch, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Sales Zip Squad, thank you guys for tuning into another awesome episode here. Feel free to connect with Blake on LinkedIn. And again, you guys got to check out his commencement speech. It'll make the hair stand up for sure. But we will catch you guys on the next one.